Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring Fabula Ultima TTJRPG. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this tabletop role-playing game that attempts to bring the Japanese video game RPG experience to your table, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to talk about villains. In Fabula Ultima, villains are powerful antagonists that will give player characters a run for their money. Just as the player characters' actions drive the story forward, villains represent the powerful threats that loom over the world, sometimes lurking in the shadows, sometimes welcoming our protagonists with a warm and deceitful smile, and sometimes challenging them in an all-out battle that will decide the fate of the entire world. Whatever form they take, villains are usually connected to one or more player characters. Sometimes this connection is thematic, but it can also be much more tangible. That is, the villain could represent a vice, while the hero represents some sort of virtue. Or perhaps the villain is connected by blood or by other origins to the hero. The game master may introduce villains whenever they see fit, either by adding a completely new character to the story, or by revealing that a pre-existing character or creature is a villain. Villains are often accompanied by henchmen, or even by other villains. They could be two lovers fighting side by side, a queen and her advisor, a powerful sorcerer and his massive golems, a bandit leader and her gang of rogues. Let's talk about Ultima points. Ultima points are the dark mirror to Fabula points. When a villain is introduced, the game master must also decide whether that character is a minor, major, or supreme villain. Now, it says here that the game master can keep this a secret or openly reveal it, but I think this is another one of those terrible pieces of advice that you encounter in this book, because you're going to spoil the plotline like that. In many good video game RPGs, specifically JRPGs, the best plot twists occur when you think that a villain was the main bad guy, but suddenly there was someone else, perhaps an advisor, or a more obscure character. Now here, you have a table indicating how many Ultima points a villain gets. A minor villain gets 5 Ultima points, so they could be enemy commanders, unique and infamous monsters and such, but a supreme villain would get 15 Ultima points. This is the category of immortal entities, alien deities, and archdemons. Let's talk about spending Ultima points. A villain has 3 options for spending Ultima points. They could be used to escape, to invoke a trait, or recovery. That is, a villain may use an action and spend 1 Ultima point to recover from all status effects, and also recover 50 mind points. While player characters can gain Fabula points in several ways, villains cannot recharge their Ultima points. In a way, they represent the villain's determination and will to pursue their objectives. A villain with no remaining Ultima points is no longer a villain and becomes equivalent to any other NPC or non-player character. Alternatively, they may choose to escalate. Let's talk about that. At any time during play, the game master may declare that a villain has transformed into a new version of themselves, one with greater powers and darker ambitions. Narratively speaking, this is the moment in which the villain rejects a chance at redemption and grows even more obsessive in the pursuit of their goal. The heroes force them into a corner, and the results have proven catastrophic. A minor villain can become a major villain can become a supreme villain, and a supreme villain cannot grow any more powerful. Following this transformation, the character is treated as an entirely new villain. The first time they appear during a scene, their Ultima points will reset to a value appropriate to their new role in the story. If a villain has no Ultima points left and is reduced to 0 hit points, they may immediately escalate while still on the scene. This will allow them to recharge their Ultima points and no longer be forced to surrender. If a villain escalates while on the scene, they are immediately treated as a new villain and thus award each player character 1 Fabula point. When choosing whether a villain will escalate, The Game Master should consider the antagonist's importance within the story, their personality, and the way the heroes choose to confront them. A villain's escalation shows that the heroes might win in a conflict, but still make the situation worse. Most of the time, it's best to simply let a villain be defeated. Maybe the resolve is broken. Maybe they even realize they were wrong and will turn into an ally. Escalating your villains sparingly will make them more memorable, and also ensure that players feel like their actions have an impact on the world. In general, you should only have 2 to 4 escalations per campaign. When it comes to villains and Fabula points, whenever a villain makes an entrance during a scene, each player gains 1 Fabula point. If a villain has more than one identity, the heroes only receive Fabula points when they appear using their antagonist persona. Once the deception is exposed, however, they will begin awarding Fabula points every time they appear on a scene, whether disguised or else. If 2 or more villains appear during the same scene, each player character will gain 1 Fabula point per villain, up to a maximum of 3 Fabula points per player character earned this way during the same scene. If a villain's presence extends for several consecutive scenes, the player character only gains 1 Fabula point at the beginning, and no additional Fabula points for the following scenes. Whenever the heroes are running low on Fabula points, the Game Master should run a Game Master scene and show a villain in action. This is a great way to push the story forward, while also giving the heroes a bit more fuel. And this concludes this part of the review. In the next part, we are going to talk about inventory points. I really like this villains section. The only thing that I didn't like was the Game Master revealing the villain as a major villain. I think this is terrible advice. Like I said in many beloved Japanese RPGs, video games, there are many plot twists and turns, revealing a character as the main villain, as the mastermind of the entire saga. But everything else about the handling of Ultima points and Fabula points, how the villains sometimes in those video games they make their escapes, they appear, they fight for a bit, and they escape once more. And you can't wait to get into that final confrontation with that villain. And also the way that you can escalate the villain for some incredible surprises, like those Final Fantasy villains that at first appeared like some powerful warrior or perhaps a sorcerer or magician, and they turn into this huge aberration, this absurd and bizarre type of entity or deity that you have to face. That works great for a final battle, or perhaps to mark the half of the saga of the campaign. You know, like in those Japanese video game RPGs, where you have crossed the entire map and you fight what you think is the climactic battle, but suddenly the villain transforms and the world is devastated, and it turns out that it's just the half of the game, and now you need to, once again, gather your strength. In this case, Fabula points will do a great job of representing that pivotal moment, and the heroes have to renew or gather their strength once more. This can be represented excellently with the Fabula points. I think awarding Fabula points in those moments is perfectly thematic. Thank you for watching this part of the review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.